Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. What has caught your attention in the automotive world?
Russ, have you got something? Go.
Oh, there's stuff, but I had a funny story from yesterday.
That's good, too.
I was working on air conditioning because it's air conditioning season.
Oh,
if you haven't had yours checked, get it checked. Don't drive around with a car with your AC under par because it's probably causing damage. When you lose refrigerant, the gas, you also lose oil, and the oil lubricates. It's like driving your car with 2 quarts of oil in it instead of 5 or 6.
Does it help if I don't turn it on?
Yes, just leave it off if there's a problem. But who's going to leave it off? So we have people that come in and say, well, it was really hot, and I know my appointment was for 2 weeks, so I just ran it anyways. It's like, well, now it's going to cost you $1,800 instead of $300. What? So those things happen. So I was pulling out this old Trans Am for this guy I know out of a storage building, and I had to move a Corvette for a different guy I know because Shannon can't afford a Corvette. Anyway, so I pulled it out.
Get that E-ray though, huh? Thinking about it?
Nope.
This thing's got this loud exhaust. I think this is a 19 or 20, 21. So it's got a switchable exhaust. You start it up and it's and it's loud and it's blah, 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 blah. And I pull it outside and it's sitting there. And I walk inside and I try to start this Trans Am. And in the whole time in the background, I've got this sound of blah, 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 blah. And wasn't a fast idle. It was just, it's idle, the normal thing. So I wasn't expecting it to slow down. It was just doing its thing. And as I'm trying to get this car started, which has the battery tender thing, it says it's fully charged. I expect it to start. It doesn't.
I don't know any of this, by the way. This guy
is this a funny story to you?
This guy doesn't know anything about any of this. So
it looks like it's charged, but it's not because it just goes clink and nothing. So I'm like, oh, that's the click of the battery cables loose. So I'm under the hood trying to check these battery cables, and I'm kind of wedged in a corner because there's an old hoist. It used to be one of mine. Anyways, it's next to me. And I'm kind of in there, and then I'm tightening the battery cables. And all of a sudden in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this sound that I've been listening to that's going blah, 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 is now going blah, 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 blah. I'm like, holy this car is rolling away. I get the Doppler effect of the car as it's rolling away down the driveway, down the hill, as I'm in the building. This is the Corvette outside, right? Because it's, the sound of as a car moves away out of your driveway, it gets quieter.
Yeah.
So I hesitated, like for 3 or 4 seconds as it got quieter, waiting to like, why is the car rolling away? And I'm thinking in my head, is it in gear? Wait a second. Oh. So I'm running as fast as I can outside, and I run around the corner.
There it is yet.
The car's still sitting there, but instead of being on a fast idle when it starts and then slowing down, it just starts up at its normal idle speed, but the exhaust, as it warms up, gets quieter. So the door is closed, and it got quiet. Have you done this, Shannon?
Yes.
Thought the car was rolling away?
I have not thought it was been rolling away,
but you've heard it.
I could see exactly why you would think it was rolling away.
Because you were there when it idled down.
Yeah. No, I've been around it enough just to see that happen a couple of times. So
yeah,
I could see where you'd think that would be rolling away.
And I'm inside of the building, kind of stuck in a corner. So I was waiting, like, it's not. Is it? No.
Did it ever?
He was in shock, is what he was.
I was like,
if this is rolling away, I don't know. This is gonna be bad.
My brain was thinking,
there is no quick opening that door. I mean, you don't run beside that car and grab a handle quick.
Well, no, I left the door open. So it would have been even worse when it hit something.
Steal.
Chris, when I move your car, I move so many cars. You really got to think about what you're doing. So I'm moving your car. Did you push the park button before you got out? Because the newer ones, they put it in park when you open the door, but the older ones don't. So it's like, did I push the park button when I got out? It's like, wait a second. Does that car? There's so many of them there. I'm thinking,
before we go to a call,
manual trans?
I kind of want to know about the rest of the other car that you're talking about that wouldn't start.
Oh, it just wouldn't. It was nothing. It click, click, click. So I'm looking and the battery tender said full.
Yeah.
until I
Because I
hit
know the
key.
white one next to it that the guy that you know has.
Yeah.
That one I know has got a bad battery.
Well, this one has a bad battery too, or it did. Now it's got a new battery because
Okay.
I put that battery on a charger and it was completely dead, and it says it's done, and the battery's like 6 years old or something. It says, it looked like brand new, but it was 2016 when we put it in there.
Oh, wow.
Is it that long ago?
Yeah, that was the last time we had 70 was the last time we had that car in the shop. But
Eight
boy,
six-
don't let your car roll
Yeah,
away.
don't. Oh, yeah. Or it must have been. You got your anaerobic work out there, though,
What?
huh?
What color was the one that you had idling outside?
Green.
Okay.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Mississippi and talk to Carl. You're on the Under the Hood show. Carl, what can we do for you?
Well, good morning, guys. It's great to hear from you.
It's great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I called a couple of weeks ago about a Ram van, a Dodge van, 2000 model, that was trying to crank by itself. But I've since I got that dealt with. It was the starter relay. Anyway, that was the strangest thing. No key in it, doors locked, and I'm outside and I hear it just turning over,
Cranking away.
and I'm like, somebody's trying to steal my van.
There's a theme here
There's
today.
a lot of that going
There's
around
a
on
theme
the show.
today.
Yeah.
Rollaway cars, self-starting.
Exactly. So anyway, I just disconnected the battery cable, the ground to stop it, because when I put the key in, I unlocked the door, put the key in, turned it to the on position, and it cranked immediately. But the starter was still spinning. I'm like, man, this is too weird. All right. Anyway, so starter relay, got that taken care of. It's all done. Now I've got an 05 Honda Pilot with brake problems, pulls real hard to the right. And I wound up taking it to a shop, and it's had right rear caliper replaced. I replaced right rear caliper, front right caliper, and both back rotors, new pads on front, and it's still all right. So they replaced the left front caliper, the shop did, and cannot get any fluid to come out of, they can't bleed the caliper because it's not getting down there.
Did they put a brake hose on it too when they put that caliper on there?
No, I did suggest that because I've heard you say that so many times that hose could be messing. But he said they left last weekend. I took it in last Thursday. So over the weekend he said they left the bleeder open just to see if it would gravity drain or whatever. And he said not a drop came out of it. And he was going to put his scanner on. I checked back in with him Monday. He was going to put a scanner on it, but his scanner trashed out on him, and he was waiting on the Cornwell guy or somebody parked
The tool truck to show up.
To bring him a new scanner. So I hadn't talked to him since, but I'm thinking that, he said neither the left rear or the left front driver's side, neither one of those will bleed.
Well, the ABS on that vehicle has a left side and a right side and a front and rear. It's a four-wheel ABS if it's equipped with ABS on a vehicle that has it. And then it has a front and a rear in the master cylinder and the proportioning valve system in it. So I wouldn't think of anything causing that in that situation. But when you tell me you got a car that pulls to the right, my first thought is not the right calipers. It is the left calipers. Left hoses, actually, is the first thing I think of. If it pulls to the left, I think of the right hoses, because what's going to happen is you're driving on the road, you hit the brake, it'll pull to the right first, and then it'll pull back straight again. Because what's happening is you've got no pressure in the left, just in the right, so it pulls to the right, and then eventually that several thousand pounds of fluid reaches those calipers on the left, then it goes straight again, and then you let off the pedal, and it may drift to the left because now the left side's hanging up for a while. But I'm thinking of the left brake hoses. But anytime I put a caliper on a vehicle, I'm going to put a hose on it because we've already got, if it's old, it's an 05. I mean, it's old enough that we could have a problem with the caliper. I'm thinking for sure the hose, because this rubber in there, And if no fluid's going through it, that sounds to me like that may be what's going on. So I would disconnect the top part of the hose where it connects onto the steel line, disconnect it there and see if fluid comes out. If it does, throw that hose away and get some new hoses on it. And if both left hoses are bad, left front, left rear, put 4 hoses on it. Because there's no way that those other 2 hoses, just by coincidence, are still good when you've got 2 bad on the vehicle, and they're not that expensive. Right. I would just stick the 4 hoses on it and be done with that portion of it. The calipers are probably fine. We almost never see I can't think of any time we've ever put a caliper on one of these vehicles unless the hose collapsed and caused the caliper to drag and get so hot that it melted the rubber piston boots in it. Other than that, they just don't stick or fail for us. So I would definitely
let me say this, Russ. Okay, let me say, all right, and sometimes it will, especially like first thing in the morning, cold crank, and put it in reverse and hold, and you're holding the brake, not real hard, but just holding the brake, and let off the brake, and one of the calipers is dragging. Yeah. And you have to step down hard on the brake, and then it releases.
Yep. So you're stepping on it lightly. A little bit of fluid goes past the hose. It sticks in the caliper. When you step on it hard, it stretches out the inside of that hose just a little bit. So you let off it, and the pressure comes back. It sure sounds like a hose by what you're describing.
Carl, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Let us know. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget you can watch the show on our YouTube channel, and if you subscribe to that and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Owen Odell, congratulations from all of us here at Under the Hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. And don't forget about Berkeley One Classics, now celebrating 50 years of collector car coverage. Universal Technical Institute, that's your place to go to learn all about automotive, whether it's electronics or mechanics or hydraulics, whatever it can be in that car. You can get trained there by the best in the industry and know all there is to know about cars, so you can go out and get a great job that pays really well as an automotive technician.
UTI.edu. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here. Let's go over to Minnesota and talk to Alan. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Alan, what can we do for you?
Got a 2008 Pontiac Grand Prix, 3.8 liter. Got about 160,000 miles on it. Had the transmission rebuilt, 2016. They had to rebuild it 2 times, and it still didn't work. So I guess they got me a crate transmission, whatever, and they didn't rebuild that one. And that transmission started to slip within about 2.5 years. So I babied it until this year. And then I brought in another transmission shop. They rebuilt it 2 times, and the guy couldn't figure it out. He said, I built 500 transmissions, and there's only 5 I could rebuild. And then he found out that it was in the shop for 2 months. Then he found out that the wiring harness, there's 6 millimeter, 7 millimeter. So that was the problem. So he rebuilt it. Seems like it runs good now. But there's a code that came up. A couple different codes. One code is present, says the P0741TCC stuck off. Perform drive test, monitor TC circuit, and determine electrical working company, but TCC cannot hold. Internal fault. So I wonder if that could be issue. I don't get it fixed. And then there's a couple other codes. C lights on codes present. Evap large leak. And another one also present. Another code says knock sensor code. So I got 3 codes going on. Are those important ones to fix?
That first code, when you look that one up, is check wallet.
Again.
Oof.
I shouldn't laugh. You've been through a lot, it sounds like, with this car for the age of the car and the amount of money you've spent.
I've got to know one thing. Out of all these transmission replacements and repairs that they've done over and over and over, repeat, which is just sounds horrible. Have you paid to put a new radiator in this car yet through all this transmission replacement?
No.
I
change the fluid all the time, or when I need to.
I specifically asked that for one specific reason. The transmission cooler is in the radiator on this car. These radiators on the Grand Prix, the Regals, the Monte Carlos, they are famous for becoming restricted when the transmission fluid gets hot or when the radiator gets hot. So normally if you're driving around and the outside temperature is in the 80s or below, the coolant might be running like up to 210. But on days where you get into the high 80s or into the 90s, it can easily run 220, 222, 223, somewhere like that in stop and go traffic. And when you start pushing over that 210 mark, we've seen those radiators collapse inside as they swell up like a thermostat closing, and it restricts the flow of the fluid through the transmission, and the transmission runs hotter than normal. It doesn't overheat so much that it's burning the fluid and it's puking the fluid out and causing an immediate failure, but it immensely accelerates the failure of the transmission where it will fail quicker. And what happens is you'll be driving it and then it will start to shift hard. It'll bang between gears really hard, and I'm sure you probably run into that, or you've been driving it and you only have second gear and you shut the key off and restart it, and then it goes again. Have you had those problems come up?
Yeah, with the old transmission, it would slam in the gear pretty hard.
And when he said he couldn't rebuild that one, my thought is he probably couldn't rebuild it because it was so damaged inside that it'd been hot and he couldn't rebuild it. So the hard parts were damaged, so he had to get a replacement for it. I think your transmission's probably overheating. And now with this code you have of TCC, that's torque converter clutch stuck off, which means it's probably got a failure in the torque converter or something failing in the pump now. But it's probably all caused by, if you end up repairing this and getting that transmission fixed or replacing it again, if the car is decent, it's, even though you've put a bunch of them in, it's probably worth putting a transmission in it. I would not accept anything less than putting a brand new radiator in that car when I do that transmission repair, because that's where the cooler is, or put an external transmission cooler on where that radiator is. So you've got good flow and it's cool, because they may flow check it, which I'm sure a good transmission shop would do and probably has been doing, hopefully. And it probably flows just fine when the car's started
The amount of
up.
volume of fluid that it can pass through it has to be at a certain volume, or else you'll starve the transmission.
Yep. And I've had cars like this where I thought it's fine, it flows good because we tested it cold, but then we had to put a transmission in it, and then 9 months later we put another one in it, and these were used transmissions, but there's no reason they should have failed. They were low enough. I said something's not right. So we intentionally got that car. The transmission was already out, so I said, I'm just going to stand there with my foot on the brake and the gas at about 2,000 RPMs until this transmission is just hot, hot, hot. And then I flow checked it, and almost nothing would go through that radiator. I said, that's the problem right there. The radiators killed it. So I think that you've probably got a cooling issue on that radiator for the circuit of the transmission fluid.
If you got fortunate enough that it was just the TCC solenoid that was bad, and it just happened to be that, and it was causing that, I think what Russ is saying is that even if that were the case and they could drop it down, pull the side cover, and replace that, which is a more affordable repair, if they haven't put a radiator in it yet, you should, especially with all this activity you've had with the transmission. The other code has to do with the evaporative emission system, and that's fairly common. And
probably a vent valve on that.
Yeah, and you could probably even ignore that until you figure out your transmission. Right, Russ? I mean,
yeah, it's not going to hurt the way the car runs at all. As long as he doesn't have a smog test to pass, he's fine with that. And the knock sensor code is probably a failed knock sensor, and that's just a screw-in, super easy replacement on that model engine. And they failed a lot on those. I wouldn't worry about either one of those. Probably a vent valve for the evap, and probably
Figure out the
not
transmission first before you spend any money.
But definitely, with those failures, it just tells me I think you've got an overheating problem.
Alan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That would be great and a bummer if that were your situation.
Well, if you find out that's what's been causing it the whole time, but we don't know if it's very possible the first two could have just failed, and now maybe they're failing again because of overheat. But all of those can come from overheating of that fluid, and it just concerns me a lot because of so many we've seen with that problem.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tim. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tim, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. Listen to you all the time. Love your show.
Thank you.
My daughter has a 17 Jeep Grand Cherokee. She lives in Minneapolis. And the poor girl went to get a battery change. She sent a video to me of what it was doing. Went to get a battery change, and she had the worst luck ever, but it was an all-day affair and didn't end well. But she eventually, after going to several places, an auto parts store recommended the person down from their shop. She went there, and the first battery that they had was the wrong one. They were in the process of changing it and realized it wasn't going to work. So then, half hour later, they got the right battery, and my daughter was in the car and with the hood up, and all of a sudden there was a loud pop and sparks, and then smoke started coming from under the hood, and she got out and was scared, and she just stood back and let them do their thing. And anyhow, she asked what happened, and they said they didn't know. And long story short, I finally called them, and they just didn't want to talk very much. They said, we don't know what happened here. And anyhow, it was around 5 o'clock. They left her hood up, left her, and locked the building and went home. But anyhow, after all the towing, and we had one repair shop look at it, and they replaced, I think it was called the Z-Pack, or it was like a block of fuses.
Yep.
All the lights went on when the spark deal happened, and it just, everything went haywire. And so we took it to this one mechanic, and he thought he could fix it. He replaced some fuses and stuff, and then he started up, and the radiator cooling fan didn't start smoking, but he noticed that it was unplugged. So these guys unplugged the radiator cooling fan, didn't tell anybody, but the guy plugged it in, and it started smoking, so it was burnt. So then he wanted to mess around with it more, thought he could fix it, and I just, this thing lasted forever, and I said, do you have the computer technology to, if it needs more, can you test these codes and all that stuff? And he said no. So I just had enough, and I had my daughter get it towed to Belzer, Dodge, Jeep, whatever, in Minneapolis. So long story short, the question is, what do you guys think happened? And this whole deal was $2,500.
Is it fixed?
That's what I was going to say.
Is it fixed
Is it
now?
fixed now?
Well, it is fixed. He hasn't had any problems with it.
Okay,
but,
so here's the thing. If that battery was being replaced and there were sparks, if I'm putting a battery in any car, and let's say I've got the cables on, and I have a wrench and I'm tightening up the battery, and I happen to be on the positive side, and I'm not using an insulated wrench, and I touch it to the metal of the car, or I touch it to the negative on the battery, I'm going to get a giant spark. And in the worst case, I'm going to melt that wrench or burn my finger really bad.
It's going to heat up quick.
Yeah, and if I left it on there like until it completely melted, I might be able to cause a fire in the plastic next to it because the wrench is going to be glowing red. I'm going to do zero damage to the car because I've shorted that positive terminal to ground. So I'm basically just jumping across the battery like it was out of the car on the shelf. There's nothing affecting the car at all. If I hook the battery cables up backwards, I'm going to immediately blow fuses and damage any circuit that is turned on in the car.
Kind of hard to do on a lot of these newer vehicles because the cables are kind of curved and usually right.
In that Jeep, you can, because there's been several times I've put those Jeep batteries in this model Jeep and went, oh, wait, oh, no, they go this way. Because some of them are super easy to reverse. From what you described, I can see, just over the radio here, I can't see any other possibility than that battery was connected backwards. Even if, there are two things could have happened. Either the cables, if they were laying in their original position and they put the right battery in there, then nothing could happen. But if they had a different battery and that had the terminals reversed, that could happen. But it sounds like it was hooked up backwards. You should be able to get a very accurate description from the dealership who worked on it. They should be able to say it's got damage from being connected backwards. And if it did have damage, I would contact your insurance company and let them decide how they want to handle who's going to pay for the bills on it, because I believe it was hooked up backwards. If we ever connected a battery backwards like that in a car in our shop, we would stay there. We would get your daughter a car to drive, and we would get it fixed, because that's not just, hey, we're out of parts. It's we have damage.
Would you admit it and then fix it, or would you just fix it and make it all good?
Oh, there's been times where we've had something break because we were working on it, and we just fix it if it doesn't cause any damage or any customer problem. But
this is going to be a customer problem, because it's the end of the day. She's got
you've got to get them a place. But no, if they came in and we went, hey, your lug nut broke off, we were trying to fix it. It's not supposed to do that. This is a little more. This is more of a serious.
Can you have him hang on the brake? I want to talk to him on the brake.
Okay.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. We're going to take that break, and we'll be back on the End of the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. Okay, Tim's still here. Shannon, you had some questions?
Yeah, I did. This is a bummer deal. And like Russ said, with the wrong battery, we're just thinking here, obviously we're not looking at the vehicle. But if you had the wrong battery that happened to have the polarities opposite,
which is common, they make them in all directions.
You could have been tricked right into doing the wrong thing without thinking you got the right battery there. Now, you obviously should look for symbols and all that stuff. But otherwise, if they did have enough cable to get them switched around, yeah, it's going to cause damage right away. Did your bill from the dealership outline it should have what they did to it? Can you give us a quick summary? We got a little bit of time on this.
Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead again.
But they didn't give us what they thought happened. We asked them to, and they just said they don't get involved. And but I've had other people around here tell me it was either hooked up wrong, backwards.
Well, back to that though, Tim. Back to the bill from the dealership. On their summary of the bill, what did they do?
What did they replace?
What did they replace?
The radiator cooling fan was replaced, and some fuses, and then they had to do a bunch of computer resetting the codes or resetting something.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the reason why she thought she needed a battery in the first place? Why did she go in for a battery?
Well, it wasn't starting that good, and she sent a video of me, and it was really slow cranking. And I said, go in and have your battery tested by, one of the auto parts store, and they'll be able to tell you. And then if you need a battery, get a new battery. And she sent the video to me, and it was just cranking slow. And
she hadn't really had any other problems with that, or had she been having some problems with the vehicle?
Well, a week before, the battery wasn't cranking it over like it normally does. So that was the only issue that she told me about.
Well, there's an outside chance. I'm looking at Russ across the way, and he's getting ready to say something too. But there's an outside chance that there could have been something going wrong with that cooling fan. Because then, is there a direct circuit to that? Why would that be the thing that would get zapped, Russ, if the battery went backwards? Is there
if it was on, if there was any power,
that could have been right where it ran to?
Yep, it could have burned that fan up. But I think if it was cranking slow, it probably had a bad battery. And if it went into a shop to have a battery installed, the first thing they should have done was test the battery to see if it was bad. So yeah, I think all this damage was. It sure sounds like it was caused by if there were sparks and there was smoke, something was hooked up backwards. And to have fuses blown, the only way they blow, you can't blow it from shorting out the positive terminal. You've got to have it connected backwards. So like we said, I would contact your insurance agent on the car, tell him your story of what happened, and let them run with it, because it sure sounds like that's going to be something that would
There's
be
some culpability there.
Nobody's going to say, it sounds like right now, hey, we did that.
We probably did that.
But by the description, if somebody just came to me and gave me just the list, this is what is wrong with this car. All these fuses are blown, and the only thing that's been done to it recently was a battery put in it. I would immediately say, I think that battery was hooked up backwards. There's no other way it would blow all these fuses.
Tim, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That sounds like, and doing it from here while she's
and he gave her good advice. He said, go get the battery tested, and that's usually a good starting point.
And this happens more often than it should. In our shop, probably 5 times a year, we get a call where somebody said, they'll tell us, hey, I hooked up my battery backwards and now it won't start.
Good luck, Tim. Thanks. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Rhode Island and talk to Steve. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Steve, what can we do for you?
Good morning. My wife's 2009 Chevy Aveo will not crank. If I put a switch, remote switch between the two terminals on the starter, it does crank and start. I've checked the fuse. I've swapped relays for the start. It did a few times start when I shifted to neutral. It doesn't do that anymore. And I have replaced the neutral switch. Just unplug it and plug it into a new one. And I'm baffled.
Well, you're going to have to do some diagnosis there, see if you're losing some power. We've had some bad ignition switches on these cars, like 5 or 6 of them that have been bad. So that tells me, because when you get that many on one model and none on most of the others, it's likely you have a problem with an ignition switch. But you can find this out, get yourself a voltmeter, go down to that neutral safety switch, try to crank the car, and in the crank position, you should have voltage on one side of the switch, and if it's in neutral or park, you should have it on the other side. If you don't, the switch is bad for sure. But if you do have it on neither side of that, then you've got a problem between your switch and down there, or between the fuse box and the switch. We just go backwards. I'll start down right at the starter. Nope, nothing there when I crank it. Go up to neutral safety switch, nothing coming out of it, nothing coming into it. Back all the way up to the ignition switch. I've got nothing at the ignition switch coming in or coming out, but I've got power coming in. I got a bad switch, or I've got a bad section of wire. I just check, I move backwards. Luckily, the Aveo doesn't have a lot of wiring in there and a lot of issues that it could be, but you got to back yourself up until you find out where that portion's at. But that car, I don't even think that car has a starter relay. I think it uses the neutral safety switch as the connection point for park or neutral on it, if I remember right.
We just had one recently here, just a simple quick story. Our delivery truck that's been sitting here for sale that we decommissioned because we got a new one, and we haven't been able to sell it right away because the market kind of changed on that stuff. And they went to start it and it wouldn't start. So I was gone, and I told them they needed to get it running, and they said, well, the starter's bad. We don't have a starter. I said, no, the starter's not bad. It's just been sitting there. I mean, that was my first instinct. And so finally they got underneath there, and Benji Steffes, our manager, he used an old trick that he hadn't used for a long time. He said, but the end of the cable where it goes to the starter, because he didn't have the voltage was coming and going. It didn't look bad. He ran a screw into it, and right on the end and he used the screw as kind of to make a new connector.
Ground,
started right up. The end
connection.
of the cable, it was corroded inside, and so it wouldn't make a good connection. So they cut the end of the cable off and put a new end on it. It was perfect, but they were once again baffled. So it could be as simple as the end of a wire that's gotten corrosion on it, and it's just not letting the current get through.
Steve, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. That'll do it for hour 1 of the Under the Hood Show. Hour 2 is coming up. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is also here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up. You kind of threw me off a little bit there with the properness of your introduction.
Our producer, Doug, answers the calls. I don't do much, but I'll give you the phone number. 866-594-4150. I'll push a couple buttons, too. Wayne has been waiting while we're doing this. I don't want
Oh, wait a second.
Okay.
I just thought of something.
What's that?
Wait.
Today's date. This is the beginning of 35 years of Under the Hood.
Oh, wow.
It was the 1st of August, 1990.
Yep, August of 1990. I didn't remember the day.
So
Shannon
the first
said,
August show is...
Welcome to Under the Hood. I'm here at the fair. What's up, people?
Russ enjoys this part.
I like that
me.
tape.
Yeah.
The tape, I can
He's being generous.
But
actually.
it was a great show. They had people
It was
lined
only
up.
a small clamp on my testicles.
They had a group of people lined up ready to call in because they said, it's probably not going to work. But
We
they
didn't find
need
that out
anybody.
until years later.
Yeah. Didn't need anybody. The calls rolled in and they kept going and they kept calling him back and said, you got to do more. And he did more. And then here we are. And wow, can you believe it's been...
And now Doug has more work.
This is the 35th year. And I was listening to that first show
Wow.
with Ron Sabers at Dashboard Electronics going, who is this guy?
kid?
This show is never going to go anywhere. I've heard these things before. And I don't think I'd heard any car show before, but I went, yeah,
That's
whatever.
pretty cool. 35 years.
If you would have asked me if Ron would have said at that time, hey, don't make fun of this. One of these days you might be on that show. I'd be like, yeah, right.
How about that?
Isn't that crazy?
Good job, Shannon.
I just thought about it because I just remembered storms, fair. Oh, hey, it's that time of year.
I would have not even thought of that.
And I got to change the podcast number now to instead of season 34. I got to change this will be season 35, episode 1.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Wayne. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Wayne, what can we do for you?
Well, I have been going round and round with repair shops over the service TMS light on my Canyon.
Okay.
I've had 3 different places looking at it, and nobody can figure it out.
Then it's really broke.
Yep. Yeah.
What's the vehicle doing? Is the vehicle doing anything different, or is it just that the light is on?
Well, the light comes on after you drive it a while. And sometimes it'll just go off by itself. Sometimes it doesn't come on at all. Sometimes it comes on as soon as you start it.
And I'm sure they've have they put any parts in it yet?
Oh boy, yeah.
Have they replaced all 4 tire sensors?
Yes.
Okay, because our first step on that is to get our scan tool out that reads the tires. It's
You'd want it.
Every one of them. I'd go to each tire and I'd read it and see what the frequency is and see what the tire pressure is and the temperature. Make sure that they are reading 100% signal, 100% battery, good to go. At that point, then I plug my separate scan tool into the vehicle and read what the codes are. What codes are stored in history? Is it a communication issue with one of those wheel speed sensors or not? And if I have codes saying I can't read that sensor, but I know they've already been replaced, then I've got to look at the wireless module in the car, which is the module that receives the signal from not only your 4 tire pressure sensors, but your door locks as well, your keyless entry. It's the wireless module. Have you ever had a problem with your key fob that you used to lock and unlock the doors on that vehicle?
It hasn't worked since the day I bought the truck. I bought it used.
There you go. So if I've ever got a tire monitor problem with a vehicle,
On this type of setup.
On anything General Motors, and my remote doesn't work either for the doors, I am suspecting that it's not my remote, it's not my tire pressure, but it's more than likely that receiver in the car for that. And we've seen a number of them fail, and they'll come and go. Sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't. But if both of those systems don't work, that's your whole wireless system. Something's going on. So I would look in that direction. So you've already got the big problem fixed. You've got new sensors in the tires because being an 11,
it's plausible the batteries could be dead and they could be done.
Yeah, I've seen them bad in a 19 already with a few of them out. So yeah, make sure that's working, and then have them take a look at that wireless receiver module. I think something's going on.
But the good thing is with the tools they have now, they can go around and you can physically check each sensor and make sure it's emitting the right frequency to rule that in or rule that out.
And you could get that key fob working again on your door.
Mm-hmm. That'd feel good.
Does that help you out there, Wayne?
Well, what are the odds of 3 different shops missing this?
Very good.
It depends on the skill level of whoever the person was that was tasked with looking at it.
I know.
There's only one person in this room who would have got it.
I can
would
tell
have
you,
done some looking.
I've got friends. I could probably name off 10 people I know that are friends that would go as far as scanning the tires to see if they were good, and if they were good, they'd say, "Nope, I'm not going any further with this. I just don't want to." Could they? If they really worked at it and wasted a lot of their time, meaning that they haven't trained themselves to do it because they rarely see it. This is something that hardly ever happens. We've seen this issue where it wasn't a tire sensor like once in the last 5 years. So it's like, why do it unless you've already had that experience? So they wouldn't even work. They just push it off and say, nope, go to a different shop.
Is that module that needs to be replaced in this particular model make going to need to be programs?
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't believe you can. I don't know if you can even get one. The Canyon in Colorado, there's a few modules. Body control is one of them. That I don't think it can be. There's some problems replacing them, and that's another reason they wouldn't work on it. But I think that's the direction you're going. Is that's what's wrong with it?
And is there?
And you can't turn the light off. There's no way to turn the light off by removing anything.
So with this problem, the connectivity problem, if that's what it is and you can't replace it, is there any issue with it other than
the light's going to be on all the time? And some of them will ding at you, and then this one just turns the light on, right? It doesn't ding at you, or does it have the message center on this one?
Well, it shows up in the message center.
Yep,
as well as the tire light on the instrument cluster.
Yep. Yeah.
You're constantly having to clear that message in your message center then.
Yeah,
that's no good.
Well, that's a direction to check.
As far as what's going on, I think it is something going on.
Just in summary, if they can go around and they've got reading from 4 sensors all working good with a direct wanding of the sensor, that's where you got to go.
And let them know about the key fob and all that, yeah. Wayne, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Tim. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tim, what can we do for you?
Hi, glad to talk to you. I have a 2019 Chevy Express, and engine light came on, and it said UO109 was lost communication with fuel pump control module. I took it into a shop, and they cleaned the connection and cleared the code, and then the light came back on like 11 miles later.
But they didn't put any parts in it. They just cleaned the connection?
Yeah, they cleaned the connection, and I called them back, told them the light came back on again, and they said, oh, that's something I'll take to the dealer.
Okay. Well, yeah, that part can't, they need to diagnose it first, and maybe they didn't have the capability to diagnose it. And then once it's diagnosed, a new part can be put in and programmed, but it has to be programmed in there. If the connection was dirty, I'm concerned about that, because we just run into this recently with a vehicle that had corrosion in a connector, and it had tried to be cleaned off on the outside, so it didn't appear very bad, but it got into the connector and seeped up into the wiring, and we had to take off about 12 inches of the wiring to get to good, clean. I wanted to be at least an inch or two past the damaged section of wire before I spliced stuff, and I ended up splicing 40 wires in. So, yeah, I would look at that really close, but it's more than likely that module's failed too.
Is that why they cleaned it and sent it off, because they didn't want to splice 40 wires?
They probably wouldn't have. A lot of places won't even do that because they're afraid of, it's got to be done just right, and it does take time. Otherwise, you're replacing that entire harness for it. But these modules are pretty sensitive to any kind of voltage changes. So if they get water in the connection, which is pretty common on these, it'll corrode the connector, and then it'll damage the unit. So they can clean it up, and maybe the unit's bad, maybe it's not. But the problem is going to be that there's corrosion on the unit, there's corrosion on the harness, and more than likely they're going to have to replace either the whole harness or the end of it, and then replace the computer. Now, an independent shop might replace that part of the harness if they can even find one, which is going to be really hard to find a good one. So like a lot of places, like here at the auto recycling, we're not just going to go chop that end off of that harness, because the chances of that harness being bad are probably pretty good, because so many of them have had this issue. So you're going to have to get it first you're going to have to find it. And so I'm thinking if you go to that dealer, they're going to say, yeah, sure, we can fix it. We're going to have to put a computer in it, this module, because we can see some corrosion on it, or it could have been damaged by voltage fluctuation. And we're going to have to replace this harness going to it. So it could get kind of expensive. So the best you can do right now is try to clean it with some electrical contact cleaner and hope it fixes it, but it may not. Yeah, it's one of those issues where it's going to be a little difficult to get that taken care of. I know we've looked at them on a few vehicles for some of our regular customers that have these vans and things, that just to make sure they don't develop a problem. I've even taken them off and said, oh, it's good and clean, there's no problem, put it back on, and let's put some silicone around that connector, because they tend to leak and get in there. Salt and corrosion gets in there too.
Tim, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Joe. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Joe, what can we do for you?
Hey, I got a 2011 Mini Cooper Clubman, and when I sit or if I just sit at a stoplight or just sit for any amount of time, maybe, a couple minutes or whatever, when I take off, it will just start blowing blue smoke out of the back of it. It doesn't have blue smoke when I start it up in the morning. It doesn't have blue smoke just driving it. Only when I'm in idle, just sitting somewhere. Say if I stop and talk to somebody or something and I drive off, it just fills the street up full of smoke. And what really bothers me the most is it gets down into the exhaust and just leaks oil on my, my driveway and my inside my garage.
How much oil are you down in your crankcase when it comes time for an oil change or between changes? It's got to be using oil, correct?
It's using oil, yes. I have to watch it, as far as, making sure it has, like normally like a quart, here's the thing. Now that I know this and I figured this out, I normally just shut it off. If I'm, a stoplight, it won't do it. But like if I pull up to the bank and I'm going to do some business at the bank, then I will turn my vehicle off so I don't get this problem. So, but, it's using about a quart. Sometimes, it's even a little more than a quart, but I normally check it and just put more oil in.
This is a Cooper S. This is a turbo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the turbo's junk is what's going on. I think the seals are leaking in the turbo. It's just dumping oil right into the exhaust pipe. So when you're at an idle, it's just pouring in there, dripping on the ground, and it smokes when you take off. Going down the road, I think it's getting hot enough that it's burning. The oil's being burnt in a catalytic converter, which is going to plug that thing up, and you're going to need both a turbo and a catalytic converter.
So you can't ignore this. And that's my first thought is the seals are out of the turbo also.
And you might need a catalytic converter anyways pretty quickly if it starts giving you, it'll turn on a check engine light and say catalyst efficiency low on bank 1. But I surely think that turbo, if you take it into a shop and they pull the inlet side off of the turbo, they'll be able to look in there if it's full of oil, and then they pull that downpipe off the exhaust and it's full of oil. That's where it's coming from. I mean, you'll be able to tell. The other thing you can do is if you pull the spark plugs out of it, if the spark plugs, or just pull one out, and if it looks like brand new, nice light tan or whitish color, and it's in good shape, the engine's not burning the oil. It's dumping it out of the turbo right into that exhaust and out the pipe. If the plugs are completely black,
I would probably pull all the plugs and just take a peek at them.
Could be
just
sucking
to make
it
sure.
in the inlet side, burning it, but I really think it's coming out of just the turbo seals on the exhaust vane side and dumping.
Which would explain why I wouldn't do it when you start it up, because it's not hot enough.
Yeah. I had a brother-in-law that had one of these that was a year old and it had a bad turbo on it, so it's not unlikely that this could happen.
Does that help you out there, Joe?
What's the dollar amount? Sorry?
Go ahead.
What
dollar amount to replace if it's just a turbo on this and not a converter? I think you could probably get a good used one for that, and you might be a couple $1,000 installed. A new one could add another $1,000 to that. I mean, it's going to be similar to your car, Chris.
He's having a little bit of turbo PTSD over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I hopped in his Volkswagen yesterday and it had no brakes, no power brakes. He's like, "Are you kidding me? It never ends."
Never ends. Joe, thanks very much for the call.
Yeah, you might check with Dorman Products and see if they sell a remanufactured or new manufactured turbo set for that.
Yeah, Dorman Products does carry a number of turbos for a number of cars at a good price. So if they've got the one for the Mini Cooper, I would definitely go with that because it'll be a complete unit with the gate and everything on it.
Check your spark plugs first, though.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Joe in Rhode Island. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Joe, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. The AC's working fine. I just had a question or concern that the compressor never cycles on and off. It just stays on all the time. And the condensation that you usually get in the driveway or whatnot, I don't have any little puddles or anything that are, from the drain tube. So I was just wondering if any damage could be done by the compressor just staying on.
And it's been plenty humid where you're at. Of course it has.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then you've got one of two things going on. And I'm not worried about the cycling. I'm worried about the level of charge. It's probably low, but that compressor on that car, I don't believe cycles at all. It's a variable orifice compressor, so it's got two electrical plugins on it. One that turns the clutch on the front, but then one that controls the geometry of the turbo inside, the displacement. So it will, as you drive down the road, and some of them don't use a solenoid. They use a thermostat inside. So as you go down the road, it stays engaged, but as you drive, if it doesn't need as much cooling, it changes the geometry and reduces the horsepower draw on the engine. So the displacement is less. It's pumping less refrigerant, and it still stays cold, but you save on your miles per gallon, which is a great idea when it works. And they usually work really well. We've seen them go 200,000 miles or more and have no problems. So I would definitely take it in and see if it needs a charge if it's low. But once they do charge it and it's condensing again and you're getting water on the ground, if it still doesn't cycle, I wouldn't worry about that because it's made to do that. It changes that displacement as you drive.
Does that help you out there, Joe?
There is actually no water on the ground at all at any time.
It's not getting cold enough
And I checked the drain tube to make sure. Okay.
Well, that was gonna be my next thing. Just make sure you've got flow through your drain tube, which is that's the low hanging fruit. You already checked that.
It's going to flow on your floor before long if it's completely plugged. So if it's really ice cold inside and you're getting it could be operating properly and just not draining. So maybe it's if the air is ice cold, but it's not condensing because on the ground because it's filling up the case inside, and you'll know that.
Eventually it'll come out on the floor.
Yeah.
Joe, thanks for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us at the Under the Hood Show. If you follow us on YouTube, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the show and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Josie Carino, and that is Josie, not Jose or anything like that. It's Josie. Josie Carino.
Did you think we wouldn't believe you?
I thought you might say, "Are you sure that's not Joe?"
Standoffish there.
Wanted to make sure I spell it for you because you were concerned that we get the name right so that the person
I don't care
gets it.
Nope.
Got to get them their hoodie, courtesy of Universal Technical Institute and our friends over at Berkeley One Classics, celebrating 50 years of collector car insurance.
I'm thinking about getting Berkeley Classics for my car just so I'm driving it less so it doesn't break as much.
You're already driving it less. You hardly ever drive that thing. And I'm thinking, why has it not been insured with Berkeley One Classics all this time? Because it is the epitome of a Berkeley One Classic car. You know, they do.
It's so awesome.
They do that. Yeah. They do antiques, sports cars, collectibles. You're not racing it in racing. I mean, it's rarely driven. So it's like, yeah, that's covered. It's an 07 Solstice. Those are collector cars. Basically, if it's something you take to a car show to show off, it should be that, you know.
I don't drive it because it's usually here.
That's I was going to say, if it's broken, does that count?
866-594-4150. Let's go to Illinois and talk to Mike. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mike, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Shannon, Russ, Chris. Really enjoyed listening to you guys. I've been listening now for about a year.
Thank you.
That's when I finally found you.
That's awesome.
I'm totally hooked.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. So question I got for you today. I got a 2018 Chevy Cruze, which is my daily driver. It's a little 1.4 turbo, as you know. About, 6 months ago or so, maybe even a little longer than that, I started to notice a little bit of a hesitation once the car would warm up, like a lack of power, while you're accelerating under a normal load. And gas mileage seemed to be suffering a little bit, on the road. And anyway, so back up a little bit. I've had it since 21. I bought it towards the end of 21. It had 27,000 miles on it. I've got 61 on it now. I do my own maintenance and stuff. I change my own oil and all that stuff. I change it at least every 3,000, 3,500 miles. Always looks pretty good, the oil and stuff. So with this hesitation issue, the car calls for new spark plugs at 60,000. So I did those about 5,000 miles ago. Didn't make a difference. Nothing changed. I even changed the coil packs. I thought, you know what, listening to you guys and stuff, that's kind of a normal maintenance thing. I thought I'd change that too, change those. No difference. Seems to have gotten a little bit worse. Now I'm looking at the car the other day, and I'm looking at so on the inlet pipe and the outlet on the intercooler, there's oil. And there's also oil seeping around where the tube finally winds up and hooks up by the throttle body. And I'm like, whoa, this can't be right. Seeping oil, how much is actually in the intercooler and stuff. So I actually have it at a dealership right now. They're looking at it and they're trying to, figure out what's going on. But I just wanted your guys' thoughts on something like this. The oil. I know the first generation 1.4s had an issue with the PCV valve issue, and then you had to change the intake, and that was what was causing the oil to go in the intercooler. But on the second gen, I believe they fixed that issue. But from what I'm reading, it could be a seal in the turbo that's leaking, getting into the intercooler. Just wanted your thought on it.
I think the turbo is bad by what you're describing. We put a number of them on
going
these
bad.
cars. Yeah, it's leaking oil, so it's on its way out, and you'll get that low power
Right.
as that happens
Right.
too. It'll bind up in there. It's pretty common. We do a number of turbos on those cars, and especially if they sit. Sometimes if you let them sit for a couple weeks, you're on vacation or whatever, you come back, drive them, they'll have no power, and then they'll kind of go. But then after you drive them a while, they'll come out of it and they'll start working. I tell people, you got one of those, put good high octane fuel in it, and don't let it sit. Just drive it. Drive. Don't overdrive it, because that overheating too will smoke those things. But
Sure.
just normal driving.
Sure.
Keep it running. Exercised.
Nobody wants to hear that, but you said it on the first generation. It was pretty common to have a PCV valve issue, but not
Right.
as common because eventually GM had to figure that out because they had PCV issues in a lot of vehicles, and not just GM. There's a number of them that did, and so they're going to want to do some tests on that and find out where that oil is coming from. And if they got oil on both sides of that turbo, and it's not coming from anywhere else, that's kind of where it's at.
Does that help you
Right.
out there, Mike?
Yeah, it does actually. That was my thought. When I saw the oil coming, where the tube enters the intercooler and exits, and also up by the throttle body, I'm like, this can't be right. It just doesn't seem right. But yeah, no, that definitely helps me out, guys.
And then there again, one of our partners, Dorman Products. I know they make a turbo kit
They
for
make
that
this
car.
one. Yep.
I know they make that one, so it might be able to save you some money, and a very good quality product.
Yeah,
Mike-
we've installed a number of those.
Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jack. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jack, what can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning, guys. It's been a while since I talked to you.
Sure has.
I've got a 99 Jeep Cherokee. I bought this car for my grandson. Well, it had some kind of a noise like ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling on the front end. Well, sure enough, both axles were up in the front end were shot. So I tore it all apart. First time I've ever torn apart any four-wheel drive deal. Anyway, I ordered new axles. They came, and I sat on a TRQ or something like that online. And anyway, I put the first axle in there, about an inch and a half too long. Well, the other side was about that much too short. So I sent them back. I called them up. I sent them back. And then I said, I need the ones I need. Well, they don't have them. So where does the guy go? There's all kinds of them online there, but you don't really know what you're getting.
Is this a 99 Grand Cherokee or a standard Cherokee with a solid axle in the front?
No, it's a Grand Cherokee with the four-wheel drive, full-time four-wheel drive Quadra-Track.
They probably sent you ones for a Cherokee.
But yeah, is it? But there again, is a 99 Cherokee or Grand Cherokee? Either one of them has a solid axle on the front.
But they're different widths.
Yes, they are. And also within those, you can get the heavier Dana axle or the lighter in a couple of them too, which could make a difference in the length of the axle. This should not be hard to get the right ones if they do it by VIN number breakdown and just confirm for sure which axle you have and which model of Jeep it is. We sell a lot of these remanufactured Jeep axle assemblies, and the company that we work with to rebuild them, I believe, also sells the axles, and they're very knowledgeable in them. We don't typically stock those because people will come to us more often when they're doing a complete assembly. But that is something that our folks at US Powertrain, that is one of our partners that we work with from the Nordstrom's Automotive side, would definitely be able to nail down for you and get the right axle. I guarantee it. And so one of our reps I know could help with this. But if somebody's knowledgeable in Jeeps, they know how to get the right part for them. If not, it can be very tricky to get the right make, the right model, the right axle. They even in those years were using different manufacturers. Some would use a CV boot style. Some would use a U-joint style. There was just you just really had to be on your toes when you're ordering the parts.
Yeah. Well, these guys said they didn't have them. They didn't have the ones I need. He said we don't have them at all.
They may not make them, or may not have them from the vendor they get them from. But like I said, if they don't, you're just gonna have to go somewhere else and return those. But like I said, if your online searching doesn't help you out there, I know through our counter we could probably get those through our partner US Powertrain.
Jack, thanks very much for the call. Good to hear from you. That is a Jack call problem.
Yeah,
that is something that he ordered axles, and that's.
I wish I would have had more time. Jack was at our parts counter the other day, and I was on a mission to the back to get something that had to be done, and all I could do was wave and say hi at him, and he was getting a few parts.
He's like the opposite of our calls that say the check engine light came on 4 months ago. What is it? He's
already dug in.
Yeah. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Rob. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Rob, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, was hoping that the auto doctors of diagnoses could help me out here today with a problem on my daughter's 2001 Ford Windstar. And the problem she's experiencing doesn't seem very serious, but it's to do with the instrument cluster. Specifically, since she got the vehicle, the tachometer did not do anything at all, but the speedometer was working and the gas gauge was working. And right after she had gotten the vehicle, she inherited it from a relative, she just started having wonky things going on with the speedometer and the gas gauge, and sometimes it acts like it's working, sometimes it's not, and I think, geez, it just sounds to me like it's just a connection issue maybe, but maybe it's something a little more complicated than that. So I'll call the doctors of auto diagnoses from Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show and see if they can help us.
Well, those two issues with a tachometer and a fuel gauge have no connection anywhere except for in the cluster. So, being it's those two issues, the problem is just probably a bad cluster. And so, in that particular case, in an 01 Windstar, does she have like super low mileage on the vehicle, or do you know what the miles are on it?
Actually, pretty low for that old vehicle, 131,000.
Okay, there are, it's getting old enough now where there's not as many people, servicing those clusters. Like in the day, I'm sure that's one that Dorman probably would have stocked as a remanufactured cluster for a plug and play cluster. And in an 01, I don't think you need to program it even. I think you can just plug and play one out of another vehicle. Mm-hmm. And so I would suggest you could go to a U-Pull yard, a self-service somewhere, because that's where that age of vehicle is probably going to be. And you could probably pull one out of another vehicle, even though the mileage wouldn't be the same, and test it for not a lot of money and see if everything works. And if it did, then you could consider sending yours into a repair facility. There are still places you can send them to, and they'll fix problems in the clusters, but that problem's most likely in the cluster. And if you want to get really technical and be close to your original miles, you could go online if you determine that is the problem and go to Car Part, our partner on the internet, and you could maybe find a cluster that matches the options and has similar miles. In that age of a vehicle, it's, I think as long as you stay close, you're going to be able to tell people, hey, at this mileage, I ported a cluster and it's 1,000 miles different. Mm-hmm. Just document it with your stuff, and when you're selling it, it's not going to make that big of a difference on the value for that age of a vehicle.
And you could find one with any mileage on it if it works and do the same
That's what I'm
thing.
saying. If you went to a self-service and just plugged it in just to see, because it's not a hard operation to change that cluster. If you take a look at pulling the trim bezel off, it's usually right there. You can get at it with the screws that hold it in and pull it out. And hardest part is just getting the connector off the backside sometimes.
Rob, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. So this is one now.
unless perchance it had a problem. They had a little sending unit in the engine that sent the tact signal on that engine. And if that failed at the same time as the fuel sending unit failed,
it could be.
It's a possibility. So, but that's how you, cheap way, you go out and buy a cluster at a self-service yard. If there's one there for $30, put it in there. If the problems change, you know where the problem is.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Roman. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Roman, what can we do for you?
Well, hello, gentlemen. I've got a 2019 Ram Longhorn, and it's got the eTorque system in it. It's not labeled that, but it's got that motor generator unit under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
I love the truck, but I'm starting to hear what I think is a slight bearing noise it's associated with the RPM. And, I've been looking around a little bit. I'm wondering, could it be from that? Looking at the accessory belts, that belt is under quite a bit of torque to be able to start the motor. It looks like it runs the AC compressor. Of course, the power steering is electric, and then the water pump just has a real tiny belt, so I kind of doubt it coming from that. What are you guys seeing?
Well, that is under a tremendous amount of torque, and we've seen some make noise just when the belt starts wearing out. So it could be that the belt is wearing, and you definitely don't want, as belts go on vehicles, this is one you don't want to let go too long. People come in and usually their belt's being replaced when it's already coming apart. But occasionally we'll have somebody that says, hey, I'm thinking about maintenance. Do you think I should put a belt on it? We'll look at it and say, yeah, maybe yes or no. But if you've got any kind of eTorque system or assist where you've got an electric motor that both starts an engine and charges and gives you assist, we say, yeah, you've got to be a little more proactive on that changing. I'd say 5 years is tops for me. It's probably about average, but 5 years, I don't want to go past that. I'm going to put a belt on it. When you pull the belt off to change it, spin everything and see what it sounds like. Make sure there's no bearing noise. There's a little whirring, like a skateboard wheel that's worn out. If you spin that thing, make sure that it's all spinning freely and then put a new belt on it. But it's got a tremendous amount of torque on that belt and pressure of it when it's tight.
If it's something else and he has to get it fixed and he just put a belt on it, will he be able to use that belt again?
Should be able to reuse the belt unless there was a pulley that was worn out and if he saw that a chunk was taken off of the side of this belt,
right?
Then you really got to be careful because you might put a new belt on and wear it off. But if the belt looks great, other than you think it's just noisy from being old and dried out, put a belt on it.
So this is a good move that can be done anyways, no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
Roman, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Chandler. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Chandler, what can we do for you?
Yeah, hi, guys. I enjoy the show very much. I'm listening on 105.1 here FM in Sioux Falls. So
Thanks.
Got a door latch issue, 2016 Navigator. I get in the car. I get a chime and the screen that says the driver's door isn't shut, but the door is shut. All the doors are shut, and I can drive it, but then I get the chime and the screen, and then the transmission is not in park sign, and don't know what to do about that. I keep trying to shut the door, and that doesn't work. So I disconnected the battery cable, tried to reset the computer that way, and then I ran the code reader on it. There's no codes, so don't know what's going on there, but it affects a lot of things. I mean, it affects the ability to lock the car remotely. It affects the power running boards. You have to shut those off. So it's a very annoying thing. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are, if that's just the latch, if it's a mechanical thing, or maybe it's a sensor, a module, or is it tied in with the computer somehow? And do I need it? Maybe I hope I don't need a new dashboard.
Have you, Chandler, I have a question. Have you, even though you know there's a problem, you know it's something not physical to what you're doing, have you gotten out and just two-handed that thing just to try and teach it a lesson or get it to work? Have you really slammed it hard a few times?
Well, I have shut it, opened and shut it several times. I haven't slammed it. Per se.
He's not suggesting you do it so hard that you bend anything.
Yeah, I don't think you should, or it will work. But man, would I'd be out there trying hard.
Hey, here's the thing on that vehicle.
I'd try it soft.
They use a totally integrated door latch that has electronic controls within it for releasing the power doors, sensing the latch position, all these things, and they fail. And the reality is that if it thinks it's open, everything's working properly, but it just thinks it's open. So if it's not the totally integrated latch, it could be a problem in the wiring between the door and the body because that moves very often. But we don't see a lot of that on that model, like the Expeditions and Navigators when you get into that newer generation. Do you, Russ?
No. But that'll also, you get that door open, it's going to affect the transmission.
Yeah, no, he's right on.
Put it in park,
it thinks the door's open. There's nothing broken.
I think it's a bad latch.
It's just, it'd be like if you opened your door going down the road and it thinks it's open. And so most likely it is the latch. So if they check the signal with the computer, it's going to say latch open. And if it says latch is open, it's getting a signal that says the latch is open. So you got to, and it's not open, so it's got to be it's most likely in that totally integrated latch assembly that's inside the door right over the striker. And they're kind of a pain to change, but you got to pull the door panel off and work your way in there and change it out. And that's most likely the problem.
Does that help you out there, Chandler?
Expensive deal.
They are. We see some of them that are in the $150 range. You get some odd ones every once in a while that just scare the heck out of you, and they're $500. But then you'll see some that are $70, and you'll see other ones that they fail enough that Dorman, another one of our partners, we mention them often as a partner, they might have that as an item that they sell because there's enough failures on them. So if you check Dorman's website, you can put in your year, make, model, and it'll show you the parts they make for that year, make, and model. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. Neat.
Because if you look at all the parts they make, they know those are parts that fail or they wouldn't make them.
Right. Chandler, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's an interesting. That might be. I was going to say that might be fun.
Certain vehicles, you can do that. Just put it in and just don't specify a part, and it'll show you everything they make for that vehicle. Like,
I think that sounds dangerous. Like, I would just get worried. I'd start to hear creaks and noises because they work breaks all the time. Let's talk to Annalise. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Annalise, what can we do for you?
Hi. So I have a 2008 Ford Taurus, and I left for about 3 months. And I had my husband trying to start it, and he would go 2 days without starting it, and it wouldn't start. And so we found out the battery was dead. We replaced it, but every single time I open the door, I get in and the CD is running, the CD disc player is running, and then it says CD error. And I've never had that problem before I left.
He broke it.
Yeah, that's all I could think.
He broke it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The CD players, we've had a number of those that were bad, and some people chose to pull them out and put another factory one in, and that'll work. Or the other thing is you could pull it out and put a nice aftermarket radio in. In our area, we got these friends over at Audio Playground, and it is kind of a playground. You can get just pretty much pick what you want to go in the dash. If you want something with a bigger screen or something like that, you can do all sorts of different things and have Apple CarPlay, which you wouldn't have had in 08 on a factory unit. So I just put one in Chris's Prius, and everything's integrated with his steering wheel controls and cameras now all work. Plus it's got Apple CarPlay and Android, so you can just get in the car with your phone. It automatically connects instead of having that dumb cord and all that stuff that you used to have. So I would say it's going to run your battery dead and then it won't start. So first, you could just unplug it. You could have them take it out and unplug it to start with, and then decide what you want to do. Get a used radio, probably a couple $100 installed, or maybe $300, or you get that aftermarket, and they're going to start at about $225 and go up as much as you want to get something really cool if you want. It just gives an old car a new feel when you have a big TV screen in there too.
As quick as I can. I'm going to be gone next week. My daughter's getting married, and I'm pretty excited about it. So congratulations to Madison and Max. We'll be out of town for a wedding, and so we're very, very excited about that and happy for them. We love you both, and I will not be here next week because of that.
Congratulations. That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. All right, let's get right into the after show, shall we?
We shall.
We've got calls coming in. If you're listening, if you're watching, I guess you could be listening and not watching. You could have another window open.
Yep.
Give us a call. We'll be here for a little bit.
This is where the show gets crazy.
With Annalise on that last call, I was having flashbacks, Russ, and I was going to say something, but I just stopped.
Oh, wait, Taurus.
When did they start getting rid of the oval signatures in the Taurus?
Oh, okay. When the 99, 96 through 01, was it? Body style 108. Was it 01 and then 02?
I couldn't, as I was sitting there thinking about it.
I think it was 01.
Might have been 05.
I don't know if it was that old. Look at the body style,
the jelly
Chris.
bean, right? We're talking
where the back window was oval, everything was oval. They went with oval geometry on everything,
I was thinking,
including the radio.
Yeah, 02, I was thinking it was when they went from the 96 to 02, then they went to a newer style.
05, I think, is when they went to the bigger Taurus that was more like a big sedan.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just was having those flashbacks as we were.
But those radios,
the 05 is still the
oval signatures.
I guess. Well, it certainly looks like it exteriorly.
Yeah, that's the same car with the round windows. 05.
All right, yeah, 05.
What year did they change? Look up in 07 once.
Okay.
Did the Taurus go away, or did they went to the Taurus X? Was that the Taurus
X?
Wasn't that in 06?
But they came back with the Taurus name in the sedan
later.
The Ford 500, as they switched to the Ford 500 from Taurus.
Right.
I think 07 might have been the change year. That's why I was trying.
06 is still the jelly bean. 07 is still the oval.
Was it 10?
Oh, look.
Are you on the?
I got a couple here that look different.
Just Wikipedia. They'll give them.
Well, I'm just looking at an 07.
Get up and walk over there. It's the YouTube after show. Why not?
But look this is an 07 Taurus. I wonder if they changed it. These are both.
That is a new radio.
These are both 07s.
Right there. That is the new radio.
That is.
The one on the right is the old radio.
Right.
That's new. That's old.
But they're both 07s because they all have that.
Does it have rectangle square headlights or oval headlights? That's the thing. Everything was oval on those cars. They were
look at that. That's
ovalish.
the same, right? That one's
the reason I was bringing that up because it might be a little harder to get a radio kit if
Looks
it was
like a Pontiac vibe.
If it was the oval one.
It's not going to be, though. It's an 08. I know that for a fact that 08, it's got the square. I can picture it. It's a square radio with an auxiliary plug-in on the right corner
08
of it.
is all the new
Oh, she had an 08, didn't she?
Yeah.
I was looking up at this other call as an 07 and then the next call. Okay.
This was all just a red herring.
But
it's a red herring.
Maybe it was just because I wanted to talk about the oval cues they used when they
Was that red herring pickled?
That's like my daughter's car with the Volkswagen.
Oh, yeah.
That stereo is about half of a din. It's tiny.
It's a fold-in. You
but
can pull
it's
out, but it
so
looks
small.
It is smaller. You can
crazy small.
Yeah, that's a single din. You've got a double, and then they make a little more than that. But then they make for these cars now. You can if you've got a Chevy truck. Let's say you've got a 14 to 18 truck, and you look in the Yukons and things. After that, they went to this giant radio. Like 21 Yukon has a really big, nice dash screen, but the 21 truck still has that square little tiny rectangle. It's like, why didn't they upgrade that? But they waited until later, and then they only did it in the half tons and not the 3/4 one or the 2500 and 3500s. I'm talking about half tons, and I'm the one that hates it. It's like, don't use that anymore.
Yeah, right.
But they make a kit now, so you can pop that radio out. And the kit goes in there, and you can put like a 14-inch iPad in there, and it looks kind of factory looking.
Okay.
But it gives, when you put screens in cars, it gives them a feel that the truck is newer than it actually is because you've got the technology in there. Like you could take your Solstice.
I did the opposite. When I switched to the old aftermarket radio from my Prius stock, it felt 5 years, 10 years older instantly.
Oh, yeah. And now it feels newer again.
Yeah. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Mississippi and talk to Ricky. What can we do for you, Ricky?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Fantastic.
I've got an '07 Tahoe that's giving me brake light troubles.
Sure.
They stay on all the time. The two in the tail light stay on all the time. The third member, the one at the top, works like it's supposed to.
That's a good indicator, isn't it?
Yeah.
Russ?
Yeah.
The
So
brake,
you
the
got
brake pedal switch
Yep.
has like 4 wires that connect to it. None of those wires are hot until you turn the ignition on, and then one of them gets hot, without pushing the pedal.
Yep. That's your
So
input.
It's kind of
And then it leaves there, and one goes to the body control module, and one goes directly back to those center high mounted stoplight to light that up. That's why that works, because it's on its own without a module. And then you've got your cruise disable switches in there, but you've got a power going over to that body control module, and that's what separates signals for your brake and your turn signal and all that kind of stuff going through there. And then you've got your noise in the door speaker that comes off your turn signal and all that to get to the back. But if there's a problem in that body control module, it's going to turn those lights on all the time. I would turn the key on. You'll have your lights on all the time in the back. Unplug the body control module. It's up onto the driver's side of the dash there above the brake pedal area. Just unplug it and see if those lights go off. If they do go off back there, yeah, that's your problem, because your input to the body control module is coming from the brake pedal switch. And we know that shuts off because your third high mount stoplight goes off. So then if you unplug the body control module and those lights disappear back there, then it's pretty safe to say that is what's keeping them on, because your only input comes into there, goes out of there. And if it's keeping them on, something's wrong with it. And we've seen this before. I've seen a few of them. I see them going down the road with either somebody has taken the brake light bulbs out, which is the quick fix, and they just have the top one working when they stop, or they've just failed completely, because I can see their turn signals are working, and their brakes are doing weird stuff, or they'll step on the brake and they'll blink really quick, like on, and then go back off, but the third one will light up and stay on. Like, yeah, they got a problem in the module.
Everything works fine. I need you to push on that copper.
That's good. We
He's got
can work with you.
Something going on there, and
got it all happening.
Yeah.
And he's got to get the work done, and he's going to find out what's going on with this
That's
Tahoe.
right. He just hung up because he's got stuff to do at work. Ricky, thanks very much for the call. I've got some automotive news. Let me run through this here quick. This one seems
we forgot the big one. It's
relevant.
the title of YouTube. So if you've gone this far, you've got to wait till the end. Don't yell at us and say it's not in there. It's in there. Read the whole title. What does it say?
It was a master tease.
It says this plus your calls. It's right in the title. Right in the title.
Defensive, are we?
Oh, look at this one.
My God.
Do you remember the Pontiac? When I put the thing in, I said, "Is Pontiac coming back?" You remember that one, Chris? A few months back, maybe 6 months ago. Right in the title, it says, "Is Pontiac coming back?" And then underneath it says, "No, but," and there was more to it. I had like a dozen people say, "This is clickbait. I'm not gonna watch this." No, it says it's a car talk show, and it asks the question, and then it gives you the answer. Are you
so this
good?
week's title is really about that.
This
that
week's
Pontiac
title,
show.
no, this week's title is correct.
Come on, I know,
But I can't tell them what it is because you're going to give them the answer right now,
Maybe.
aren't you?
Yeah, kid. Let's start again. I've got some automotive news here that came. You actually sent this to me, and here it is. In May, Toyota issued a recall for certain 22 and 23 Tundra and Lexus LS600 vehicles with the twin turbocharged 3.4-liter V6 engine. A fix wasn't available at the time. That's pertinent. That's
very
relevant.
pertinent.
But now they have come and said, yeah, there's no fix.
100,000 trucks they got to put new motors in.
We're just going to replace the engine. The recall affects
scrap 'em.
102,092 vehicles. Here's a little tip for you. Here's some information. 98,568 Tundras and 3,524 LX600s. Think of the scale of that when you think about the vehicles. Like you were talking earlier about why did they put this model in this truck or this infotainment center in this truck and this. And in this case, that same engine, you're talking about the difference of 100,000 vehicles in the body style.
Well, the Lexus, that high-end Lexus was a very expensive, low-produced vehicle, very astute vehicle. So that makes sense to me to a certain extent, but I would not have thought it would have been
that.
Or maybe there was a carryover, and I would have to look up. Maybe they switched into another engine, but usually those are sisters. And Toyota, this was sent to us by show contributor Rodney. But
someone posted it in our Under the Hood Show group too.
Toyota is not one to typically have these issues, so they'll probably get by with this just because of their good ratings that they have. But this is Hyundai-ish because what it was is there was slag and material left in the engine blocks,
debris in the engine resulting from the manufacturing process.
And so you take that motor though, and you run that thing with a little bit of debris in it. And you've got twin turbos that are all running off the oil system. You've got highly sophisticated cam phasers that run off the oil system. In any of those places, debris is not good.
I would think you'd be worried about like the main bearings for the crankshaft to fail.
Oh, them too. It'll all fail.
It'll get there eventually.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it'll get there eventually. And probably right away because who knows what their oil passage is, but a lot of times it goes right to the main bearings.
And they've had 824 claims.
And they usually pay that back.
And now they're replacing 100,000.
From the spirit of the professional automotive recycler, I hope everybody gets their recall done.
Right.
And
so you don't get one
so they don't end up floating around out there with a problem engine. It's a time bomb.
That is all involved vehicles, no charge to the owners. They get a new engine put in.
So, and that's a thing there.
That's a $10,000 engine at least, I bet.
So, Chris, if you own one of these today and you have not had it replaced, but it's under the recall, and you wreck the truck, and now that truck is brought to here, we have it in our parking lot, and it's ready to do its thing. My personal opinion is that engine should come out, and the dealership should hand us another engine because it was under the recall, right? The engine was bad. The wreck had nothing to do with it.
They exit stage left as soon as there's a salvage title.
There you go. And same thing with airbags. You've got millions of recalled airbags that continuously get recalled. But the second the car is not on the road, I mean, they'll cover it on the road for maybe another 20 years. But it comes off the road. Oh, that airbag's under recall. Can I have another one? No. You're stuck with the one that you got in the wrecked car.
I kind of get why they do it. I mean, at some point they got to cut their costs. We talk about not living with these things forever. My goodness.
There's probably if we read all that fine print in the stack of that mountain of paperwork they give you that you sign forever when you buy a brand new car, it probably has something in it that says, if this car is ever deemed non-roadworthy, we are completely not responsible for anything that ever happens to it.
I have a suspicion. The recall applies to Tundras built from November 2nd, 2021 through February 13th, 2023. If I owned a Tundra, it would have been made on November 1st. And they would just say, sorry. But it's not covered. You're on your own.
But that would be my luck. Okay, but you know what we are? That's a during COVID constructed engine.
Yeah.
I just thought of that.
Yep.
Supply chain
issues.
Yeah.
They probably switch manufacturers or who knows what, trying to match demand.
Oh, we can get you an engine. It may have a little dirt in it, but that's okay.
Brian? Yeah. Remember that company you told us we could go with back in 21? We got an issue. What's it like? Ooh, but
there again, I go back. I think Toyota in this case, they probably cast their own engine blocks, and it's probably more of a supplier issue on the materials or something that they use. That maybe the material was not pure.
Yeah,
and that's what's happened with GM and some of the Ford on that Godzilla Ford motor, and with a lot of the aftermarket rebuilders where we've had some problems with reman engines. They said we demanded that the parts be supplied because we had contracts, but the parts they supplied were substandard because they didn't have the materials for whatever reason. Couldn't get them all from the mine all the way to the engine being done. They had problems.
That's a reality show I want to see. I want to see what this is like at Toyota when it comes down, when this is discussed, especially at the time it's happening for the first time. When they're like, we've had 800. Well, oh no. This is what it is. That would be fascinating, I think, to see that. instead of Love Island. We should have more reality shows like that.
Oh, there's so much of that stuff that goes on, and just with the automotive world in general, it's crazy. I love the way they said,
And
car
in
prices are
everything.
coming down. They're not really coming down that much. It's like, oh, they were 108, now they're 104. And that's supposed to be great.
Speaking of which, we were talking about a Grand Cherokee earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when the Grand Wagoneer, the new Grand Wagoneers came out.
Wagoneer.
They said they're not going to call them Jeeps. They're their own brand now, the Wagoneer, because they didn't want to put $100,000 plus price tag on a Jeep.
Right.
So it's the Grand Wagoneer, and it's it starts at 104 or something. I parked next one the other day, a brand new one. It looks like a $100,000 vehicle.
Looks like a Wagoneer. Yo.
Oh, it was.
I think the fancy ones look pretty good. The ones that are more of the entry level, look kind of fat and bulky, and on a small drivetrain.
What's the
one I saw was like I thought that they could get out and assassinate me quick. I mean, it was nice looking.
Is it the Bentley that has the big, like, the wings sticker or the emblem on it?
And the Genesis kind of looks like that now.
You got it.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind
It's
of.
a pretty easy
I
mistake
was going to say that is a ripoff. So I saw
the original Indy 500.
I saw a
logo.
couple people sitting in a parking lot this last weekend, and they had a child going from one car to the other. So I'm assuming you can guess probably what was going on there. But it was a lady and a guy. They were younger, and it looked like the weekend swap. But they had pulled in, and one was driving a brand new, very expensive Range Rover, and right next to it sat this car. And I told my wife, I said, check out that Bentley. That's pretty sweet. And she happened to be pulling out at the same time we were. So we met, at the end of the parking lot, we pulled out and was like, oh, hey, there's that car. And I went, Hyundai Genesis.
Yeah.
Oh, they did it again. So Hyundai back in, was it the 300?
They got Genesis as their own brand in a sense.
Was it the 300 they came out with? That was a beautiful car.
300G, or I think.
That thing, when it came out, I said, wow, they have really stepped up the game for a car that is a low amount of money. Because we were still laughing at Hyundai Excels from the 80s, how junky they were, but everybody bought them because they were cheap, like a Geo Metro. But then they came out with this, and we said, well, we'll see how long it lasts. And they did. They lasted a long time, and they were great cars, and they were high-end. But now, the Genesis is like a whole nother. I don't know what they cost. Do you know, Chris? It looks like $100,000 car.
It's close. 80 grand.
The one you
Or
saw,
are they that much?
The one you saw, was it the sedan or the sport
It
utility?
was a sedan, and it looked like I've seen the sport utilities.
Well, that's what Tiger Woods was driving when he had his accident. Was
the
his,
thing
one of
I
his
can't.
sport utilities?
How much a car is now doesn't have any relevance. 2024, they're like $500,000. They're all $1 million, and money is not real anymore. So
They are.
It's hard to.
Car prices are crazy. Even used cars they've come down a lot, but they haven't come down as much. We're still replacing so many engines and transmissions in cars that, they come in and we say, yeah, that's going to be, $6,000 to put a reman engine in it. And they're like, well, 3 or 100,000 mile warranty, no car payments. That sounds like a good deal for me. But $6,000, the car's only worth $5,000. It's like, you go look and tell me what it would cost you to buy your exact cars, same color, same miles, same tire wear, everything. And then you call me back. They call me back and go, it's $12,000. Ta-da. Yeah.
I still have a distinct memory of being in this studio. So what year was that? It was right at the
2021.
Right at we were talking about prices going out of control, and a guy called in because the siblings had inherited a Honda Ridgeline.
Yeah.
And he was wondering what the scrap price on it would be.
And we're like, are you crazy?
And it ended up, we went and looked, and they were selling for $40,000.
Yeah.
But he thought a 10-year-old truck was not, it was crazy back then. And it's still crazy. It's less crazy, but we've all gotten accustomed to it. So now we think that it's
well, and it is changing. The prices are coming down, and you get incentives and all that. And the car dealership lots are completely packed full and overflowing when they were like empty. And I think it's a mind thing. You see an empty lot, you're going to buy anything. And they said the sales guys were I said, aren't your sales guys they're sad because they're not selling anything? No, they're selling everything, Russ. It's like because they come to the lot, They only see one car. They want to buy it because they don't want anybody else to get it, and they need a car, so they buy it. But now that they're full, they're like,
Yeah, I'll take the lime green one, I guess.
yeah. So they have they've come down a little, but not enough to say, oh, it's great. Let's go buy one now because the prices are so cheap. No, they're not cheap.
Not at all.
You just got to be watching because I think the market's going to continue to change. But yeah, the movement is not as big.
It's not going to be drastic
as you think it would be.
There's just no way you can take. Let's say a car is selling for a truck now that sells for $100,000. You are not going to see that truck drop back down and be 78,000 like it was before COVID.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
All the suppliers have inflated the prices because they've had to inflate their labor and everything else.
And as we've seen in the past, you've heard a lot of people say, well, depending on what happens, we could see this inflation get reversed and all the prices will get lower because gas will get lower and shipping will get lower. It's like, you think if you pay thousands of dollars to ship a container across the ocean now, and it was much thousands of dollars less, that they're just going to instantly say, oh yeah, we're going to lower it because the price of fuel's lower? No, they're going to, we got labor costs.
It's going to take a long tail to reverse any of that
and
stuff.
It won't go down. It'll just stay at a level. The rate of increase will slow down for a while until the next time it goes up.
And go Google Bentley logo and Genesis logo, and you'll see
pretty close?
They are identical. I mean, they're not, but the Bentley one is round in the middle. And the Genesis one is like a.
You know what else Hyundai ripped off? I think it's my opinion that they ripped it off as looks wise. They are really good about copying just enough to make it look really cool and get people to buy when it's not. The back of the Hyundai that looks almost identical to a Mustang Mach-E. If you were 100 yards away and you see a Mach-E and a Hyundai, you tell me which one's which. You cannot tell the difference.
Correct.
They put the double winged tail lights on them and they blink.
Never thought about that before.
They're the same.
They're double, but the Mustang's 3.
You can't tell me that they didn't think about that when they did it. And I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff like that. But hey, maybe you want to buy something that's got that look.
Yeah. All right.
I got one thing I promised a friend, and I'll post it on our Facebook page. But if you're into weird trucks,
it's just weird.
What do you mean?
Not weird.
It's just weird.
No. Friend of ours out in Emory, South Dakota, he makes the 6-door Super Duties.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Seen a few of them in the magazines and stuff.
And so they're having a national King Series 6-door Super Duty show out in Emory, South Dakota, on August 16th, 17th, and 18th. And so they're going to have people that have bought these trucks, other people that have built these trucks from around the country, and they're going to have a 3-day rally in Emory, South Dakota for the King Series, the first ever summer show. But I'll post the flyer about it on our Facebook page, and Eddie and those guys out there have bought parts from us when they first started making these, and
there was like a 12-door in a music video.
Oh, was
Somebody
there?
had taken an F-350 and made like 12 doors on it, and they had all the
there it is.
People getting out of it.
You see it there on the internet?
Yeah, there's the flyer for the 2024 King Series Summer Show.
And that is in Emory, South Dakota.
Okay.
And so, like I said, they're customers of ours, and I just said that we would make sure, and because that's just unique enough that.
Look up the world's record for number of doors on a truck. Serious, I think they have. There has been some crazy. It was mainly in the 70s when they had the George Barris Customs and stuff. They had crazy things. There's the one the E350 van that's got the boat in the back of it. You remember that one, Shannon?
Not really.
The whole back end is a boat, and those things have gone in the last 4 or 5 years. A few of them have been found, and they came out, and they are super expensive. Barrett Jackson had a couple roll through there.
They should. Your friends in Emory should send me that hat. I'll wear it on the show. That's a cool hat.
Which hat?
The baseball hat they have. It's pretty cool. I'd buy that. I mean, I'd wear that. I kind of dig that. That is a truck there. Holy moly! Look at those things. That's pretty cool. I should get one of those instead of the
there
Pontiac.
You go.
All right, I'm in.
You just be a boss in a truck.
Send me that and a hat. All right, there we go. That's the after show. You guys happy with that? You ready to put this one in the books?
I am.
Good to go.
Our 35th year, our first show from the 35th year, which, by the way, our show, same price to listen to as it was in 1990.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed. No inflation.
Matter of fact, you get more of it at more places.
It's a boater home.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
The boater home. And that's a restored one. There's a bunch of it. Like a non-restored one is several hundred
Let me say that
thousand
again.
dollars.
It's gotten, the value of this show has gotten better in 35
Shannon's like,
years.
we crushed one of those.
No.
The boat drives out of the back of it, and it's still a van.
That's fun. I've totally forgot about that.
That seems like it would have no maintenance issues at all.
None. Nothing would ever go wrong there.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the Under the Hood show. Subscribe. If you're this far, hit subscribe and like. You have to. Or the CrowdStrike will take over the thing.
They'll strike.
Yeah, so get on it or we're taking your computer.
What a name.